you're in for a real treat tonight. Our guest speaker is Diana Mason. She's got a PhD in science education and is a retired professor emeritus from North Texas State University, the University of North Texas, where she was director of their chemistry education program. She taught chemistry for 30 years, going from high school up through the university level, and she's got over 80 publications of manuscripts. She is a member of the executive board for the Texas Veterans Hall of Fame, and in that role, she was here a few months ago and led our Westminster salute to Vietnam veterans. You all may remember that. This year, she got recognized by the Texas Daughters of the American Revolution as their State Speaker of the Year, and in her spare time, like we are here tonight, she engages others to talk about her passion on how what started in Texas has changed the world and given us all our good Texas bragging rights. As you can see, Dr. Mason is an admiral in the Texas Navy. Now, I hear you telling me that Texas hasn't had a Navy since 1846, and you'd be right. But Texas does have an honorary Texas Navy Association, and the admirals in that group are commissioned by the governor. It so happens that I am also an admiral in the Texas Navy, and that gives me the, and we have one more, that gives me the wherewithal to say, ahoy, Admiral Mason, and welcome aboard the good ship Westminster.
Thank you very much. It's good to be back. So, but this, I did tell you it was a 3-hour talk, right? We got to get to the Cowboy game. Maybe every once in a while someone can take a sneak peek at their phone and see if the Cowboys can actually win one.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
So, this is probably something near and dear to several of you. Anybody ever seen this before? Yep. Yeah, okay. All right, we're going to talk about these 10 elements: gold, silver, lithium, mercury, helium, sulfur, fluorine, magnesium, silicon, and carbon. So, because these 10 elements all have a connection to the great state of Texas. So, anyway, where did we all begin? Well, this is where they think we began. Can you see? I don't know, do I have a...
Not focus.
There we go, right there. But anyway, right there is where they think Texas started, right? Well, it was a few years ago, only 514 million, and that's before what we call the Pangea. Would you like to be an impresario? Well, you can come to Texas, and you have to find your own land. You have to find a family, and if you're going to be a farmer, you're going to get a labor, and if you're going to raise stock, you're going to get a lead. And so almost everybody said that I'm a farmer and raise stock. But now the key here is you have to have good moral character. And you know everybody in Texas, especially back then, had good moral character. And then we have to form a militia, and remember, we're going into Mexico, so you have to be able to speak Spanish. Now, how much is a piece of land? Well, you can get an acre if you have a bit. And a bit, everybody in this room who grew up in the state of Texas knows what a bit is. Because 2 bits, 4 bits, 6 bits, $1. Well, a bit is 12.5 cents. So we all know that, but we probably in high school didn't realize what we were saying. But anyway, a bit is, this is a Spanish coin, and a bit is a quarter divided in half, so 12.5 cents. Now, all right, let's talk about some more history. The first settlers coming in from, mostly from New Orleans, that was kind of a staging area, coming into Coahuila y Tejas, only were granted that right because Stephen F., known as the father of Texas, but he kind of got that title by default. Who did all the paperwork? Dad. Yeah. Yeah, Dad did all the paperwork, but he died before he got to go to Mexico to get the contract signed. And so it fell upon Stephen to bring the settlers in. And the first settlers that came in were the old 300. Did I see the page? No. Okay. Well, how do you get the settlers who want to come to Texas? Well, you have pamphlets and brochures and things like that, and you publicize that there's low-cost land, a bid an acre, and you also tell them that we have lost silver and gold mines. Okay? And unfortunately, a lot of them are still lost. So, minor detail. Okay, so we're going to start off with two elements that have a significance to Texas besides the fact that they were getting the people to come here. All right, y'all know what this is? What's this?
Enchanted Rock.
Enchanted Rock. And Stephen F. in his recruitment brochures said that Enchanted Rock of Llano County, Llano if you're from here, is north of Fredericksburg, and it is the host to a lost silver mine and lost gold mine. So all the settlers that are coming here are thinking that that's a good thing. We can go get silver and gold. All right? Now we actually do have silver and gold in this state. We really do. In 2012, there was at least one silver mine that was still active, and it's in Shafter. Shafter, I can hardly see my little pointer. Shafter is right here in Big Bend, and it's pretty close to Terlingua. We'll talk about Terlingua later. But it's in Marfa ISD in Presidio County, and it really does have an active silver mine. At least it was active in 2012. And it has been reopened as the Orcana Corporation. Now, also in 2007, our Texas legislature, the 80th one, named silver our official Texas precious metal. So, and you know, all congressmen know what they're doing. So, Texas gold mines in the 1880s, still down here in Big Bend, and we have a couple of them, the Hazel mine and the Presidio, are our gold mines that were active in this state. But that's a fur piece. I talk Texan sometimes, and you'll just have to forgive me for that. It was a fur piece from where the colonists were coming across from New Orleans. Okay, Mineral Wells became world famous for crazy water. Anybody ever had any crazy water? Okay. This is going to get us into talking about lithium. Okay, now lithium, I got this off the web today. And it was published September 17th, 2024. So last week. Look what they have discovered. The highest reported lithium in brine values in North America. Okay? And I can tell you this is legit. I'm going to give you a little family history here. About 6 months ago, my family farm is in Sulphur Springs. All right, Sulphur Springs, which is right about there. We had people from Arkansas come to our farm, and they paid us money to reserve the right to mine lithium off of our property. So this is legit. So now, why is lithium such a big deal? I mean, and look at the, I was giving a talk in Arkansas, and the guy hosting me was at the Lithium Summit in Little Rock. Didn't know they had such a thing as the Lithium Summit, but anyway, that's where he was. Well, the story goes about how we kind of got into lithium, that Mr. Lynch, he was not feeling very well, and his doctor said, Denison is right up there by the Red River. His doctor said, with your wife's rheumatism and your 9 children, you really need to go find a drier climate. So he proceeded to go south and southwest. I guess he knew not to go to Houston. But anyway, he proceeded to go to the southwest, and tragedy struck along the way, and his he broke down basically, and so he had to stop. But I mean, if you're going to stop, you got to have water, right? Your horses and cows and whatever have got to drink. So they stopped by this river, and he said, "Ooh, water smells funny. You know, I'm not really sure what this is," but they had to drink, and all of a sudden, Mrs. Lynch's rheumatism subsided. Mr. Lynch, once frail and gaunt, started putting on weight. The other family ailments disappeared, and news spread. So he started selling his water at a nickel a quart. A little entrepreneur there. Well, Texas has the second most mineral springs in any state, only trailing Wyoming. But now we only have 1 natural lake. Now, how many lakes do we have just in the hill country? A whole bunch, but those are all man-made. We have 1 natural lake, and the only reason we have that 1 natural lake is because the beavers dammed up the river and made us a lake. So anyway, Caddo Lake, which is up in East Texas, it's by right up there where Caddo Lake is. All right, now what is so cool is Mineral Wells. You probably get a connection there on the name. Mineral Wells became world famous in the 1880s for crazy water. Okay, now all these people were thinking that, you know, they're going to go take the waters. And this is what it got credited with. Are you ready? Now, it's calcium, magnesium, and sulfate. That's what's in crazy water. And one more thing, but we'll get to the one more thing. It has the power to relieve or cure dyspepsia, neuralgia, sore eyes, paralysis, insomnia, liver and kidney problems, rheumatism, scrofula, which is TB of the neck, and improprieties of the blood. All you have to do is go to Mineral Wells and drink the water. Okay? Y'all are believing this, right? Okay, in 1930, the Baker Hotel became the spot to go to for famous people like actors and actresses, and in '82 it got on the National Registry of Historic Places, and in 2019 this guy starts renovating the Baker Hotel, $65 million, but look, it is reopening spring of 2026. So are y'all ready for a field trip? Yes.
Will it still have crazy water and?
Yes.
And
Yes.
pools and spas and all
Yeah,
that?
I mean, he's got with the people who knew how to decorate and all the color schemes, and it's all gonna look like the original Baker Hotel. Yeah.
Field trip, we need a field trip.
Okay, now this is what crazy water looks like. Do you see something odd about the bottles? They're upside down. Okay, now, why is crazy water, we think, really so effective? If you drink, now I purchased these in Mineral Wells. I went to the source and I purchased these water bottles, and it's very interesting that number 1 is just distilled water, period. It's just regular water. And then number 2 has a little bit more, number 3 a little bit more, and number 4 is a full-bodied mineral water. But what really probably was in the water that started making everybody feel good was lithium. because the full body, number 4, has 0.17 milligrams per liter of lithium. And that's probably a significant dosage of lithium. Now, it was interesting when I'm checking out. I have my 4 bottles and I'm walking up to the checkout counter at Albertsons. And I put down the 1, 2, 3, 4. And she said, now, you be real careful with number 4 unless you're constipated. And I was like, oh, okay. Probably, okay. And anyway, so it has a lot of salt in it, number 4 does. Okay. Here's a little sample, because lithium is becoming more and more popular, right? Because think of what
Group 1 metals are very reactive because they have low ionization energies. One of the ways that indicates its high reactivity is the way that we store the metals. Group 1 metals are typically stored under kerosene or mineral oil to prevent or limit their reaction with the oxygen in the air. Let's look at some of the physical properties for Group 1 metals. We'll start out with lithium. The lithium is coated at this point in time with a layer of both the oxide and the nitride. And we end up with a fairly dull gray appearance. Group 1 metals tend to be relatively soft, and we can easily cut the metal with a knife. What we can do is we can see the shiny metallic surface underneath. If we bring in a conductivity tester, we can see that the lithium is an excellent conductor of electricity.
There's my double E.
If we add a piece of lithium to the water, one of the things that we notice is the fact that the lithium floats. Group 1 metals are less dense than water. We also see that the lithium reacts very rapidly with the water. This is a single displacement reaction producing hydrogen gas and lithium hydroxide. The lithium hydroxide is very water soluble and dissolves in the water. The hydrogen gas escapes. If we trap some of the gas in a test tube, we can test that the gas is actually hydrogen by testing its flammability.
Listen.
We can test that lithium hydroxide has been produced by adding an acid-base indicator. If we add some phenolphthalein, phenolphthalein is colorless in acid and red-purple in base, we can tell that the solution is basic due to the formation of the lithium hydroxide.
Okay. Lithium is the least reactive in that family. And sodium is next, and then potassium after that. Now think about the lithium battery in the automobile, and they start putting water on it. Well, now, most of it is lithium ion, and that's not going to react. But if there is any lithium metal, like what you just saw, then you're producing hydrogen gas, and that's explosive. So do be careful with your lithium batteries. That's your safety lesson of the day. All right, but now other lithium compounds, this is lithium citrate. You'll see here, it's just, every time you have a line coming together, that's a carbon. Okay, and in El Paso, Texas, now this is such a cool story. El Paso, Texas, they have a psychiatric hospital. But they noticed when they compare statistics that El Paso State Hospital has fewer bipolars than all other similar hospitals across the U.S. Why? Naturally lithidated water. And so that was another thing that led to lithium citrate is being used as a mood stabilizer and the treatment of depression and mania and other bipolar disorders. And so El Paso, Texas, go figure. I told you everything's going to have a Texas connection.
Happy people.
Yes, but let's talk about a couple other solutions just for fun. We talked about Crazy Water, Dr. Pepper out of Waco, Big Red out of Waco, Gatorade.
Florida.
Maybe. we've got 50 plus vodkas, and we got 360 plus beers, and 470 plus wines, and the original margarita machine. Yay, us. Okay, and of course, any kind of frozen concoction, Bluebell ice cream is just a colloidal suspension, so it kind of fits into the solution thing. Okay, and I have a pub on Texas vodkas. So, now, why did I throw Gatorade in there? Because this guy seems to think that it's from Florida. Now, are you right?
That's what I think I am.
You think, he thinks he is?
I
Okay.
always think I am.
Okay, you always think you are. Well, okay. That's how it got its name, but let's talk about the inventor. James Robert Cade, fourth generation Texan, born in San Antonio, BS from UT, MD from Southwestern, and became a professor of medicine and nephrology at UF. Where did all the knowledge for Cade Aid? That was the original name of Gatorade, and he offered it to the University of Florida for free. They didn't want it. So he just kept on making Cade Aid, and it became more and more popular, and all of a sudden UF wants a piece of the pie. He was like, I offered it to you for free, and now you're gonna think you wanted a piece of my pie? Well, it took him to court, and the court ruled in favor of UF because he had used University of Florida computers and lab. So, however, the little compromise on that was that it went to support the infrastructure of the University of Florida. So all the computer systems and stuff like that. So that was kind of the compromise there, because he still got to support the students. The first margarita machine was conceived in Texas, National Margarita Day being February 22nd, in case you need to know that for some future reference. 7-Eleven has a Texas connection. It opened, the first one was in Dallas, and it's famous for the Slurpee, right? 7-Eleven? Well, this guy down here, Mariano, saw the Slurpee machine, and he got to thinking that, ooh, maybe what I can do is make a frozen margarita. And so by getting the right combination of alcohol and sugar, you know the alcohol doesn't freeze very, very easily. And with enough sugar, he was able to come up with the frozen margarita. And that's the original machine right there. And notice he has white gloves on. It's at the Smithsonian. And he can't even touch the margarita, his margarita machine, without wearing white gloves, because it's at the Smithsonian. The inventor of the lithium battery, anybody know who this is?
John Goodenough.
John Goodenough, right. Okay, here he is at a mere 95 years old, I think. Or no, he was 89 in 2011. And he's considered to be the father of the lithium battery, which, I mean, it goes into practically every, cell phones, iPads, laptops, digital cameras, drills. I mean, it goes into pretty much everything we have nowadays. And he said it was one of the hardest things he ever did was make a lithium battery that was, you know, portable and stuff like that. So in 2019, all right, 8 years later, you know, do the math, he got a Nobel Prize in chemistry. He also, at least, I wouldn't say necessarily him, but his lab, has also come up with a sodium ion battery. And putting that word ion in there, that's an important word, because sodium metal plus water, you notice the lithium, how it reacted real quick? Well, sodium is going to explode and make a fire. And anyway, he has come up, this was several years ago, with a sodium ion battery that in an automobile would go 300 miles. So we've got the science, and we've got a lot of the science under control. Now, whether or not it's ever going to take over for oil and gas, who knows? But it is getting into the world of capabilities and beneficial travel. He won, besides the Nobel Prize, and he passed away when he was only 100 years old. Big Bend is the third largest area of mercury production. All right, element number 7. All right, there's mercury right there. And it's one of the 2 liquids on the periodic table. Can you name the other one? No chemistry majors, huh? Bromine's the other one. Okay, and bromine's over here. But anyway, mercury is one of the two liquids on the periodic table. And if we go into Terlingua, I told you we'd get to Terlingua, and you get cinnabar. Well, cinnabar is mercury sulfide. And this guy named Jack Dawson reportedly produced the first mercury from Terlingua in 1888. And it was hard to get it out of Big Bend. Okay, number 1, you've got to get the mining equipment in there, and then you've got to get it out of there. And this is actually an abandoned mercury mine right here. But look what you have to go through just to get to here. So getting mercury, now think about what is probably the most common thing to use mercury for.
Thermometer.
Right, okay, but look where they had to go to get the mercury. You know, that's not an easy trek. All right, Terlingua is the first settlement, and there's where Terlingua is, down there where it says D. And it's Texas's most visited ghost town, okay? And why is mercury so important? I mean, thermometers is everybody's, at least for us. Couldn't you hardly wait to break a thermometer? So that you could play with all those little things of mercury? I'm surprised. Now you have, if you break a thermometer that's a mercury thermometer, which is rare, but they have to evacuate the building now if you break a thermometer. So, but we used to play with it all the time. But barometers, diffusion pumps, gears, catalysts, mercury vapor lamps, and also some of you probably have the CFLs in your house, in your apartment. That's fine. They're going to last a long time. But they have mercury in them. Don't throw them in the trash, because we don't need to crap out our environment any more than it's crapped out. The largest source of helium in the world is Texas. All right, here's helium up here. All right, Amarillo is the biggest source. Now, a gas that refused to burn was actually discovered in Kansas, but the economical source is around Amarillo. And it has the richest source in the panhandle of the whole wide world. And helium, capital of the world, is Amarillo's nickname. It accounts for 30 to 35% of the world's supply. And it's from billions of years of decay. We ain't making any more in our lifetime. So when the helium here is gone, it's gone. We have a federal helium reserve, and it's interesting that when the airships were first militarily available, we kept it a secret in the USA that we had any access to any helium, because that was, that was how we kind of snuck up on some people, during World War I. So, and also, you remember the Hindenburg. What was the Hindenburg made out of? Hydrogen. And see, that's what they were using in Germany, was hydrogen. And when that catches on fire, and just a spark, and the whole Hindenburg blew up. And helium, the Goodyear blimp, not reactive. And these are some of the things that we use today. Breathing and cryogenics and space and controlled atmospheres. And it's still pretty much the same piece of pie, but we're just reallocating it a little differently than we were 10, 15 years ago. Texas was the first to add mercaptans to natural gas. I know Jim knows what a mercaptan is. Anybody else know what a mercaptan is? You know what a mercaptan is? You know what? Okay, that's good. All right, it's something made with sulfur. And sulfur stinks, right? All right. So, it was discovered in New London, Texas, out in the middle of nowhere, East Texas. And Friday Night Lights was from where? Where was the book?
Odessa.
Odessa. Where was the first Friday Night Lights? New London, Texas. That was the first one. It was the first high school stadium in Texas with lights. It doesn't get any recognition anymore, but there are 254 counties in Texas, and 4 do not have a designated high school football stadium. 4. Now, that doesn't mean they don't play football. They just don't have a designated stadium. And Allen, Texas, anybody know where Allen is, north of Dallas? How much did their football stadium cost? $60 million. First week of existence, the concrete cracked. Yeah, ooh. Okay, now, as I said, New London was actually Walter Cronkite's first national story. And this is a scene from after the explosion. And the scoop is that they didn't know they had a leak. All right, now this one's out of the 1930s, 1937. It's a news media thing.
We bring you these graphic, appalling scenes of one of the greatest tragedies in American history. Hundreds of school children and their teachers killed and mangled, some of them literally blown to bits, others crushed by falling masonry. When their new consolidated grade and high school in the center of the rich East Texas oil field was shattered by a terrific gas explosion. Had the blast occurred 10 minutes later, school would have been dismissed, and the death toll small perhaps. But it struck when only the lower grades and a few others had left, catching almost the entire student body in an inferno of flying debris and falling walls. There was no warning. Before the eyes of persons in the vicinity, including scores of parents assembled for a meeting in a nearby building, the schoolhouse, one of the finest rural structures in the country, suddenly burst asunder and collapsed. In the remaining hours of daylight and through the long, terrible night, the scenes of the disaster were indescribable, terrible. A wild confusion of feverish rescue work by floodlights, with their gruesome, ghostly shadows, and everywhere sobbing, hysterical parents, hoping against hope and bravely trying to identify mangled little bodies through their tears. Hour by hour, the death toll rises. The injured, too, as rescue workers from the nearby oil fields uncover the pitiful remains of their children, or break occasionally into some living tomb. There's scarcely a home in the entire school district untouched by the disaster. A disaster caused, it is believed, by gas pockets which had collected in the school's sub-basement. In the long list of American catastrophes, this is one of the worst. The entire nation bows in grief.
What's that natural gas that they provide for all these things?
was the school was trying to save now it's like the top of the apex of all the oil and gas coming up from Beaumont, all right, and it was rich. It was rich with anything, any humanly possible. But the school was trying to save a dime and was siphoning off natural gas from the city. And whoever put the pipes together didn't fit them correctly, and there was a leak. And natural gas does not have an odor. Why do we smell it?
They add an odor.
All right. Why do we smell it? Because the Texas legislation realized what a catastrophe this was, and within 3 days made decisions. Put that into today's, how many days does it take to make a decision now? 3 days. And they made 3 decisions. The first one was that organosulfur compounds like thiols are going to be added to the natural gas at the source, so that when it gets to a residential area or a school or something else that you have a gas leak, you'll be able to smell it. That's affected the whole world. All right, now we don't have we don't have natural gas where I live. Do y'all have natural gas? No, we did. Yeah, we did, yeah. And so, but anyway, the mercaptans went in there so that we could smell the natural gas in case there was a leak, which was a good thing. And they also enacted what's called the Engineering Act. So to call yourself an engineer, you had to be professionally certified. And you could then use PE behind your name. Do we have any PEs in here? 1, 2. These people are bright. I mean, I'm just gonna, I have a PhD, it's just book work. These people not only have to have the book work, but they have to have the experience in the field to go with it. And so that's very good. And the other thing was that because it had collected in the sub-basement, that you could no longer build a school with a sub-basement. Now, you can still have a basement, but not a sub-basement, because the natural gas had collected there, and when the shop teacher flipped a switch and it sparked, the whole thing blew up. So, anyway, and that only affected new construction. It did not affect existing construction. And this is what it looks like today, and that's the cenotaph across the street from the school. All right, fluoride was discovered to prevent cavities because of naturally fluoridated water in Hereford, Texas. All right, there's fluorine that we're going to talk about as number 4. All right, there's where Hereford is, out in the middle of nowhere, Panhandle. It is named for the cow. Okay, it is from Alabama. Why he decided to move to Hereford, Texas, I don't know. But anyway, he decided that he was going to move to Hereford, Texas. Now, he's a dentist. He gets to Hereford, and even the little kids don't have cavities. And that's, if you're going to make money as a dentist, it helps if somebody has a cavity every once in a while. And so he began publicizing that no one here has a cavity. And it finally got back to our dental executive officer or something like that of the state of Texas, and they started trying to trace the lack of caries back to diet. Well, they must be eating all this whole grain and good, healthy raw milk and vegetables and mineralized soil. That's got to be what the problem is. And that's why nobody here has cavities. But they did not at first contribute it to the town's water. And in Hereford, the water was naturally fluoridated at 1 part per million, and that became today's ideal standard. Okay, that's why even today it's 1 part per million. All right, and it got named A Town Without a Toothache by Ripley's Believe It or Not. And whether it's true or not, I don't know. but they did a 2-year study, and Hereford had the lowest tooth decay rate among school children in the whole USA. And so there had to be something there, and they figured out that it was due to naturally fluoridated water. And of course now this is a whole nother, the discovery of fluorine was in Hereford. Now how it got into the toothpaste, that happened in Colorado or something like that, so it was, not here. But they discovered, the significance of fluoridated water. I was in San Antonio and voted for this. 2002. I mean, we're talking 60 years before San Antonio decided to fluoridate their water. And the scoop was that San Antonio had 0.03 parts per million. And if God had wanted us to put more fluorine in the water, he would have done so. So we finally got it together and finally started getting up to the standard of 1 part per million. The first metal mined from seawater occurred in Freeport, Texas. All right, now there's magnesium over here in family 2. And I'm not going to go through all this. This is my chemistry lecture. But it's interesting how, all right, the first thing they had to do is have a large source of water. So that's why they got to Freeport, because you got the Gulf. So you had to have a large source of water. And then Dow Chemical came down to Freeport and figured out how to mine magnesium out of the seawater by making a calcination inside a kiln. And, oops, all right. And what it does is leave the magnesium behind. Now, why is this? I mean, we're talking World War II, and World War II, we are out of magnesium on land. Why is magnesium important? What do you do with magnesium? You make incendiary weapons. And we ain't got no more on land. And the fact that Dow Chemical could come down here and mine it out of the ocean, first time a metal had ever been mined out of the ocean, was really cool. Anyway, it was enough that it changed the course of World War II because of what we did in Texas.
And we had a magnesium plant in Austin, Texas.
Really? I knew there was one in
Now it's
Baytown.
called the Jake Pickle plant.
Oh, well, Pickle's still around. Okay. An adopted Texan revolutionized the field of computing and received a Nobel Prize in physics. Anybody know? All right, we're going to talk about silicon. All right, Jack Kilby from Texas Instruments. He was the, TI was the first to mass produce silicon transistors in 1954 and invented the IC, the integrated circuit. And Jack Kilby he relocated in 58 to Texas. And Noyce was also doing the same thing about the same time, but they both shared the Nobel Prize. And this is in 2000, the Nobel Prize for the silicon chip. And you can read all that about how etched into the small pieces the semiconductor in the silicon that was used. And also another Texas connection was Jerry Merriman. The handheld pocket calculator was invented by TI, and it was Merriman that was part of the development team, and he was born in Hearn, which is not too far from Waco, actually. And he and Jack Kilby were on the team that did the handheld calculator. Do you realize, I mean, slide rule, raise your hand. Yeah, see, well, do you know how fabulous the handheld calculator? I could add, subtract, and multiply without a calculator, but wasn't it nice to have a calculator? Unfortunately, today I don't think they can do it without a calculator. The co-inventor of the internet was a native Texan. It wasn't Al Gore. Robert Taylor. He was born in Dallas. I got UT Austin in psychology and went into computer science, and he invented the mouse. So, all right, the only state with an official state molecule. Yay, us. All right, we're going to talk about carbon. All right, this is my number one element. Okay, the first thing we need to talk about is the carbon black industry. Up here, another one by Amarillo. And have you ever been to Goodyear and put your hands over a brand new tire and gotten black on you? And the tire has never been on the road before. So where's that black coming from? It's what it's been made with, the carbon black, and it's a very dusty sort of carbon. And that's what you look like if you work at the carbon black plant. In 1965, $87.5 million. In 69, almost 111 million, with a daily capacity of almost 4 million pounds. In 1970, Texas led the nation in the production of carbon black. Greater than 90% of the nation's carbon black came from Texas. What is our state molecule? That we're in carbon, so it has to do with carbon. Anybody know what our state molecule is? It's the buckyball. It was voted on by the 75th Texas Legislature in 1997, and it's 60 carbons. And it was interesting, the story behind this, and we'll talk about Curl and Smalley and Croto in a minute. But they gave their math to a math teacher, professor at Rice, and said, what do we have here? A couple of days later, he came back and said, soccer ball? No, it was Nobel Prize. And so that was a little unexpected. But it was first prepared in '85 by Bob Curl, born in Alice, Texas. Yes, that's where her husband was from, is Alice, Texas, right down there at the beginning of the valley. And anyway, now Croto and Smalley. Croto was from England, and Smalley was not from Texas, but they all worked at, well, Croto would come over from across the pond, but Smalley also worked at Rice. And just as an aside, because I think you need to know this, the Heisman Trophy. Football coach at Rice, also the athletic director at Rice, Heisman. So that's where that comes from, another Texas connection. Okay, the two Nobel laureates graduated from the same high school. Okay, here are some of our Nobels. Wilson from Houston, Merrifield from Fort Worth, E. Donald Thomas from Mart. I put Mart up here just in case nobody knows where it is. And he is the one that developed the ability for organ transplants because of his research to develop bone marrow transplant and leukemia treatments was all due to him. And then Bob Curl, who we just talked about, with the third allotrope. An allotrope is the same substance, different structures. Diamond, pencil lead, nothing but carbon. Those are the two basic ones that everybody knows about, is diamond and pencil lead. And the other one is buckyballs. And then Mourner also graduated from Thomas Jefferson High School, just like Curl did. Two Nobel laureates from the same high school, and not during the same time. And then Jim Allison, and I threw in Goodenough just because he lived here long enough and he got a Nobel Prize. But Jim Allison is the one, if you would ever get a drug with MAB after it, monoclonal antibodies. That's the infusion drips that some people are getting. that discovery was by Jim Allison and M.D. Anderson. So another native Texan. A group of Catholic women from New York were instrumental in the oil boom. All right. Oil is mostly carbon, about 85% carbon. And this is an interesting story. This is what Texas looked like originally, okay? Right? But to get in by we tried to get into the U.S. by treaty, and the treaty failed. So we got in by annexation. And we got in by annexation because we sold off Texas and Colorado and Wyoming and New Mexico and Kansas, and now we lost the panhandle of Oklahoma right there in the Civil War, because you couldn't have, because of the slave thing, we couldn't have land above the 36th parallel. But anyway, we sold off all that land so we could buy and also we sold off our Navy so we could buy our way into the U.S. The U.S., in their infinite wisdom, said, y'all just keep all that land out there in West Texas. It's not going to grow a blade of grass. You can't support a cow. So y'all just keep that as public land. So we did. What's out there in that worthless West Texas land? Well, as I said, here's a little bit more about, that's what we sold off to the U.S. We lost that in the Civil War. And then we have our westernmost point and our northernmost point. And that public land, oh goodness, well, we'll just keep it for now. Okay, it had no commercial value. Well, guess what? We had an oil boom. Now, the big boom, now we remember we're getting some oil up there by New London, but this is where Spindletop happened. And that was, I don't think we have time for Spindletop. Okay. But anyway, what was interesting about this is this guy, Miles Frank Yount, he was the wildcatter that got us Spindletop. And Spindletop reached an all-time production of 21 million barrels. So that's a lot of oil. And if you want to know what happened was Frank died. And his wife didn't want to stay in Beaumont, Texas. Go figure. She wanted a horse farm. So she took up all her proceeds from the oil that Frank left her, and she went up to Kentucky. And she built herself a little house and 17 horse barns. And here's her phone with 18 buttons on it for her 18 servants. And you see here what the little house has in it. 45,000 square feet, 40 rooms, 14 bathrooms. And I thought this was interesting. She had a climate control in every room. So that was interesting. And it's now Spindletop. It's the Alumni Center at the University of Kentucky. And that's what it looks like today. So it became their Alumni Center. Now, the state constitution says that out of all this oil now is coming in from West Texas, that worthless West Texas land. Well, it underwrites the PUF Fund. What's the PUF Fund? Permanent University Fund. And that pretty much supports UT and A&M. UT got 2/3, A&M gets 1/3. Why is it not 50-50?
Because the legislature was the
Say it one more time.
because the people in the legislature mostly graduated from the University of Texas.
Yeah, probably, except I have a better story. The Aggies saw that one, and they wanted to be number one. And they got to choose first. So they picked the 1/3. I think the people are getting to get it right now.
Other Aggies.
Do we have any Aggies in here? Oh, come on, we gotta have some Aggies. Where's
Not
it?
me, but my daughter and my grandson.
Well, you can tell them the story of how they got 1/3 and we got 2/3. They wanted to be number one. So anyway, this is where all of it's coming from, is the Edwards Plateau. And it was interesting that the oil wildcatter was about to give up. And he went and talked to his underwriters, and it was some nuns. And they went to their priest and said, what can we do? He's been drilling and drilling and drilling, hadn't hit anything. And he blessed some roses, gave them to the nuns. They got him to their oil driller. He took them they prayed to the saint of impossible causes, Santa Rita, and according to their wishes, Pickerel climbed to the top of the derrick and scattered the rose petals, which were then dry, and he put them, these blessed petals, over the oil rig, and the next day, it came in. They heard the whistling noises. So it had been slow, and at 8 a.m. on the 28th of May, 1923, it started making the rattlesnake noise, saying that pay dirt had been hit, and the rest is history. So, as I said, it supports the Permanent University Fund, and it really is a significant reason why UT and A&M both are well-respected universities, is because of the PUF Fund. And the PUF Fund started out being $516.53, and you can't spend the PUF. You can only spend the available. So they invest the PUF, and then you can spend the proceeds from the PUF, and that's what they get to spend. It started out in 2007, $11.7 billion, and it's up to $32.2 billion now. So we've done pretty well with our oil and gas in this state.
In that worthless land.
In that worthless land, yes, in that worthless land. So UT Austin is one of the leading universities in the South and really in the country. And UT shares the PUF Fund with all of their satellite schools. A&M, not so much. But now remember, they're only getting 1/3. So, and let's see, we moved on. All right, I love this. Santa and global warming. Why did I have to give all those bad kids that cold? And he's on a little bitty iceberg. So anyway, offshore drilling is really big, and I looked this up this week, and Texas ranks 5th as far as the oil-producing countries. If we were our own country, we would be number 5 in the world. We've got Russia, U.S. is first, but you know, take Texas out of the U.S. and what do you got? But anyway, Russia, Saudi Arabia, and Canada, and then number 5 would be us. And also, gross domestic product, we're right there, right up in the top 10, easily in the top 10. And out of the Fortune 500 clubs, 53 of them are in Texas. And these are some that you probably would recognize. These are some of the ones in the top 50. And we also have number 51. And real quick, because I got 3 minutes. So real quick. First word from the moon was Houston. Okay, and that was in the moon speech. And I love this part. Kennedy at Rice University says, why does Rice play Texas? Anybody know? Kennedy said that we choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon because it's not easy, it's hard. And that's why we're going to do it. And the only high school flag planted on the moon, now also brought back, was from Alan Bean. He took his high school flag from Fort Worth Haskell High School up to the moon and brought it back. So it's the only high school flag that's ever been on the moon. And a little bit of sports. We've talked about the Heisman. There's Heisman. And here are the Heisman winners from Texas, some of the ones you might recognize. Some of them were, most of them were born in Texas, a couple of them were not. And RG3, right there. Can you see RG3? Where's RG3? I can see RG3. Robert Griffin III from Baylor. Rentgenium is element 111. And RG is the symbol for rentgenium. So all the chemists at Baylor had t-shirts made with rentgenium on it. So, and we have 2 Heisman Trophy winners from the same high school. That would be Davey O'Brien and Tim Brown. And no state's flag is flown to the right except at the Alamo. There's the U.S. flag, there's the Texas flag, and if you know anything about flag protocol, not supposed to be that way, but we get special dispensation because we're cool. So there's nothing in the world that's not chemistry, and there's a whole lot of chemistry in Texas. Y'all focus on the whole thing. Okay, any questions?
When's the next lesson?
When's the next lesson? Well, actually, Ruth has invited me back twice more, but not for chemistry. So, and I am so impressed that this many people showed up during a Cowboy game. Does anybody know what the score is? Anybody got their phones to
Checked
check?
it a few
Yeah.
minutes ago.
Oh, and?
Texas is up 7-3. Starting in the second quarter.
Ooh, well, that's better than usual. That's better than usual. Yes.
I'm curious, I was born in a city in New York State that's famous. It's Saratoga, New York, famous for its Vichy water, which they bottled since the early part of the 19th century, and which is sold everywhere around the world as a health drink. And they have a health center there, and it's named Vichy water because it also has a strange taste, but it's named after Vichy, France. And Vichy, France is one of the kurhauses of Europe, and there are kurhauses all over Europe where you go to drink the water and eat healthily and restore yourself. So, is it because of lithium in the water?
I do not
I mean,
know.
is lithium in all these
I
places?
think it's highly possible. It's the fact that lithium has probably been in several water sources for a long, long time, but we just never discovered it. And it was because of El Paso that they figured out that it was that was why there were fewer bipolars at that particular state hospital than anywhere in the USA.
Well, a lot of people take 1 week, I mean, all over Europe, people take 1 or 2 weeks a year to go and take the waters,
Yeah,
is the phrase they use.
yeah.
That's right. She used it tonight too. It used to be a word.
My hometown of Marlin, Texas.
Uh-huh.
They discovered mineral water in 1906, and after a while, people came to Marlin to take the baths
Uh-huh.
many times, and Marlin attracted baseball teams for spring practice.
I remember that.
The New York Giants
Yeah.
practiced from about 1911 to
Uh-huh.
1919 or so.
Yeah.
And Marlin was a destination point for taking the
Yeah,
baths.
just like the Baker Hotel.
Yes, it
Yeah.
was. Baker Hotel was a grander development.
Uh-huh.
My father stood on the railroad platform. He was a booster
Yeah.
to get people to go to a particular boarding house that he represented.
Yeah.
But with the development of medicine, that all declined over the years.
Now, you brought up medicine. You do know that Dr. Pepper does not have a period after the doctor, right? They dropped that in 1953 because they didn't want people to get it confused with medicine. So anyway, that's why they dropped the period.
It's still 10, 2, and 4.
At 10, drink it 2 and 4. Yes.
Very good.
Is there any negative to having lithium in your water? Any side effect?
I don't think so, because I think if you probably got extra, you just pee it out. It's water soluble. Yeah.
Are they using the lithium, the source of lithium for the EV? That's, because that's one of the big things is that
Yeah.
the sort of lithium.
Right, well, I think the way for the batteries, the way it was described to me is that there is a geologic river, and they're going for lithium salts more than they are going for ions already in the water. So, yeah.
The salts by evaporating.
If they mine the salt, it'll be like lithium chloride, and then they'll have to remove the lithium from the chlorine. So, well, thank y'all very much. What's this? Oh, you can chloride. So, bye online people, or whatever we call this. Yes. You're welcome. Thank you.